Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Firstly, let me introduce myself. My name is Muhammad Zaenal Fanani. In my video this time to fulfill my Poetry and Language Pedagogy final test. So I'm going to explain to you about the materials of Poetry and Language Pedagogy. Then let we start. Now I'm going to tell you the materials of poetry. So the first is definition of poetry. Poetry is a literary work in the form of an expression of the author's heart, in which there is a rhythm, lyric, and rhyme in each line, conjugated in imaginative language and arranged in solid and meaningful words. And then I would like to tell you about the definition of poetry according to the expert. So the first is, according to H.B. Jasin, poetry is a literary work which is spoken with feeling, which contains a thought and response. The second is, according to Sumardi, poetry is a literary work with condensed language, shortened and given a rhythm with a coherent sound and words that have figurative or imaginative meaning. The third is, according to James Rivers, poetry is an expression of language that is full and rich in charm. And the fourth is, according to Herman Waluyo, poetry is a literary work that expresses the poet's thought and feeling imaginatively and is composed by focusing all the power of language in a cycle structure and an inner structure. Poetry has its own aesthetic value. People who write poetry are called poets. Each poem has its own characteristic from one another. The second is about the elements of poetry. In poetry, there are elements that make it up. Poetry elements consist of inner structure and physical structure. The first is the inner structure of poetry. The inner structure of poetry is an element of poetry construction in the form of meaning that is not visible to the eyes. Examples are theme, tone, atmosphere, feeling, and message or purpose. The first is the theme or meaning, is the element in the form of an implied meaning that the writer wants to convey the reader or listener. The second is tone. Tone is the poet's attitude toward his audience, which is related to the meaning and taste. From the tone heard, the audience can infer the author's attitude in dictating, patronizing, looking down on, or other attitudes. The third is mandate. Mandate is the message the author wants to convey to his audience. And the last is feelings. Feelings are something that is based on the poet's background. For examples, religion, education, social class, gender, and social experience. The second is the physical structure of poetry. The physical structure of poetry is an element of poetry that can be seen and observed directly with the eyes. This structure consists of diction, imagery or image, figures of speech, construct words, typography, and rhyme. So the first is diction. Diction is the choice of words by a poet to get the effect he wants. The choice of diction in poetry is very influential with the meaning that the poet wants to convey. The second is typography. Typography is the format of a poem, such as the arrangement of lines, the margin of the right, left, top, bottom, typeface used. This element influences the meaning of the content of the poem itself. The third is figure of speech. Figure of speech is the use of language by describing something with a special connotation, so that the meaning of a word can have many meanings. And the fourth is construct word. Construct words are the arrangement of words that allow image to occur. Construct words like toilet games describe a beach or a place corresponding to the arrival of ducks. The fifth is imagery or image, is giving a description to listener or readers, so that it seems as if they can see, hear, feel, or experience the thing contained in the poem. Imagery has 6 types, including visual, auditory, olfactory, feeling, touching, and movement imagery. The sixth is rhyme or rhythm, is the sound equation in the delivery of poetry from the beginning to the end of the poem. Some forms of rhyme include: the first is sound imitation, for example, a phrase that expresses something broken. The second is the internal form of the sound pattern, namely alliteration, assonance, final equation, initial equation, intermittent rhyme, half rhyme, full rhyme, repetition, and so on. The third is repetition of words, namely determining the high-low, long-short, loud and weak of a sound. Now we would like to discuss about the types of poetry. In general, poetry is divided into 3 types of poetry, including old poetry, new poetry, and contemporary poetry. The first is old poetry. Old poetry is poetry that was produced before the 12th century. This type of poetry also divided into several types. The first is pantun or rhymes, is a form consisting of 4 lines rhyming at the end of ABAB. Rhymes can be distinguished by type, such as punny rhymes, children's rhymes, and so on. The second is spells. Spells are utterances that are believed to bring magical powers, usually used in certain events, for example, a spell that is cast to prevent rain or vice versa. The third is Carmina. Carmina is a form of prose which is shorter than pantun. It is so short, it's also known as lightning rhyme. The fourth is Saloka. Saloka is a rhyme related to classical Malay which contains proverbs. The fifth is Gurindam. Gurindam is a poem consisting of 2 stanzas, where each stanza consists of 2 lines of sentence with the same rhyme, usually contained advice and mandate. The sixth is poetry. Poetry that is composed of 4 lines with the same ending sound. Poetry usually tells a story and contains the message that the poet wants to convey. The seventh is Talibun. Talibun is a rhyme that has more than 4 lines and has ABC rhymes. The second is new poetry. New poetry is a poetry that is freer than old poetry, both in the number of lines, syllables, and rhymes. Several types of new poetry are as follows. The first is the ballad. The ballad is a simple poem that tells a touching folk tale, sometimes present in the dialogue form or sung. The second is an ode, is a lyrical poem in praise of a person who has served with a noble tone and a serious time. Generally, odes are dedicated to parents, heroes, and great people. The third is epigram. Epigram is a poem that contains the teaching and guidance of life. Epigrams mean elements of teaching, advice, leading to the truth to be used as a guide for life. The fourth is romance. Romance is a story poetry that contains overflowing feelings of love. Romance poetry creates a romantic effect. The fifth is elegies. Elegies are poems or songs that contain lamentation and expression of sorrow, especially in the event of death. The sixth is satire. Satire is a poetry that uses a style of language containing satire or criticism delivered in the form of irony, sarcasm, or parody. The third is contemporary poetry. Contemporary poetry is a type of poetry that seeks to break out of conventional ties. Contemporary poetry always tries to adapt to the times and is no longer concerned with rhythm, style of language, and other things obtained in old and new poetry. Contemporary poetry can be classified as follows. The first is spell poetry. Spell poetry which takes the properties of the mantra. The second is meddling poetry, namely poetry that does not follow the general rules and provision in poetry. The third is constraint poetry, namely poetry that prioritizes graphic form, pace, and other form, and does not fully use language as a medium. Then I'm going to tell you about how to make poetry. The first is determine the theme or title. In determining the theme, choose a theme that you think is interesting and in accordance with your conscience. Poetry can use themes related to nature, friendship, social, education, or expression of the heart. The second is define keywords. If you have determined the theme and title, the next step is to determine which keyword will be developed into sentence. For examples, one keyword used for one array, or one keyword to make one stanza. The third is using language style. Language style will beautify the poem itself. You can use various kinds of figure speech so that readers or listeners don't get bored reading it. However, it must be underlined if the inappropriate placement of diction or language style will reduce or even eliminate the meaning of the contents. Number 4. Develop poetry as interesting as possible. Next is to develop the keyword into beautiful sentences that represent your feelings. Choose words that are dense and full of meaning in them. 3 things relate to word and arrays in poetry. A. The word is a series of rhythmic, beautiful, and melodious sound units. B. The meaning of a word that contains many interpretations. And C is contains deep imagination about the thing being talked about. And now I would like to tell you about the materials of language pedagogy. Language pedagogy is the discipline concerned with the theories and techniques of teaching language. It has been described as a type of teaching wherein the teacher draws from his prior knowledge and actual experience in teaching language. Language can be defined from 3 perspectives: the structural view, the functional view, and the instructional view based on Richards and Rogers 2001. The first view says language as a system of structurally related elements. The structure system refers to the fact that each language has its own sounds and grammar rules. The second perspective puts language as a vehicle of self-expression. It is true that through language, people can express their thoughts and emotions in a way which is understandable to others. The last perspective defines Language as a means to help interact with each other. Through language, people ask for and give information or send and confirm an invitation. Humans build their relationship through language. This understanding of language and its nature is of high importance for language teachers, so that when they teach a language, they remember the function of learning a language is for the students to use whatever they learn in real communication. It is not about knowing thousands of words, but have no idea of how to use it. And it is neither about sounding like a native speaker. Learning a language is about developing competence to use a language in an effective and comprehensible way. And it doesn't really matter if we're accented or not. In some cultures, a good teacher is the one who controls everything and so they would know better than the students. Learning takes place one way and students will likely take anything they learned. In other cultures, a good teacher gives learners the autonomy to develop their thinking and be engaged with what they are learning. Hence, knowledge is co-constructed by both the teachers and the learners. In the context of language teaching, teaching goes beyond the application of knowledge and of learned skill based on Richard's 2010. During teaching, teachers are required to take account of the learning context, their student needs as well as their values and belief in managing the class, which will inform their teaching decision. Okay, maybe that's all what I can deliver for you in this time about the materials of poetry and language pedagogy. Thank you very much for your attention and thank you very much for your watching. And the last I say, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.